December 13, 2003, a date etched in modern history. The world watched as news broke that Saddam Hussein, the long-hunted dictator of Iraq, had been captured. The official story was a masterclass in military precision, Operation Red Dawn, a swift raid on a farmhouse, and the discovery of a disheveled Saddam in a spider hole. But like many major historical events, the story the public was told is only part of the truth. What really happened in those critical hours? How was he truly found? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most significant manhunts of the 21st century. The story of Operation Red Dawn begins not with a grand battle plan, but with a single, crucial piece of human intelligence. For months, US forces had been chasing shadows. Saddam was a ghost, moving between safe houses, his inner circle sworn to secrecy. The military had a list of high-value targets, a deck of cards with the faces of Ba'athist party leaders. They worked their way down, capturing one official after another. But Saddam, the ace of spades, remained elusive. He had an incredibly sophisticated system for staying hidden, never using phones or electronic communication, relying only on a tight-knit group of loyal bodyguards and family members as couriers. The breakthrough came from a man named Mohammed Ibrahim Omar al-Muslit. He was a mid-level aide, but he was more than that. He was one of the few people who knew Saddam's security protocols inside and out. For weeks, intelligence officers had been tracking him. They knew he was the key. After his capture in Baghdad, the interrogation began. At first, he was defiant, but under intense pressure and perhaps seeing the inevitable fall of the regime, he finally broke. He didn't know Saddam's exact location, but he gave the interrogators something even better, the name of Saddam's right-hand man, the one person who knew everything. This was the true linchpin. This man was the final key to unlocking the puzzle. Armed with this name, US Special Forces, primarily from Task Force 121, descended on the town of Ad-Dawr, near Saddam's hometown of Tikrit. This area was his tribal heartland, a place he knew he could rely on for loyalty and shelter. The intelligence pointed to two specific farmhouses, codenamed Wolverine 1 and Wolverine 2. The initial raid began in the early evening. The soldiers swept through the first location, finding nothing. They moved to the second. Again, nothing. Frustration began to set in. Had the intel been wrong? Was this another dead end after months of near misses? As the soldiers were about to pull out, one observant sergeant noticed something odd. A patch of ground near a small mud hut looked disturbed. There was a rug, some loose bricks, and a pull cord made of rope. It was almost perfectly camouflaged. This wasn't part of the main house. It was a separate, insignificant-looking structure. Pulling the rug aside, they uncovered a styrofoam plug, sealing a hole. They cleared it away and peered into the darkness. It was a cramped, dark pit, just big enough for a person to lie down in. At first, there was silence. The soldiers called down into the hole. A voice, speaking in Arabic, responded. Then a pair of hands appeared. A bearded, disheveled man emerged, looking confused and surrendered. He looked nothing like the powerful dictator on the posters. He was thin, his hair was long and matted, and he seemed utterly defeated. He reportedly said, "I am Saddam Hussein, president of Iraq, and I want to negotiate." The response from a US soldier was blunt and immediate. "President Bush sends his regards." Inside the spider hole, as it was quickly dubbed by the media, there was an air pipe to allow for breathing and a small fan. It wasn't a sophisticated bunker. It was a crude hiding spot, a last resort. Nearby, they found a taxi, 2 AK-47 rifles, and a briefcase containing $750,000. But Saddam hadn't fired a shot. He had the means to fight back, but he chose not to. The man who had led his country with an iron fist, who had defied the world for decades, was captured without a single act of resistance. The news spread like wildfire. The initial confirmation came after a DNA test, matching his profile to a known sample. The images of a doctor inspecting the captured Saddam's mouth and hair were broadcast globally. It was a surreal moment. For the Iraqi people, it was a moment of shock, celebration, and for some, dismay. For the US military and the Bush administration, it was a monumental victory, a clear sign that their mission was succeeding. But the official narrative, streamlined for public consumption, left out the messy details. It downplayed the months of frustrating intelligence gathering, the countless dead ends, and the critical role of a single informant's confession. The story of Red Dawn was presented as a swift, decisive action, but in reality, it was the culmination of a long, grinding intelligence war. The term spider hole itself, while evocative, was a media creation that stuck. To the soldiers on the ground, it was simply the hole. The capture also raised complex questions. Why didn't he fight? Some speculate he was saving himself for a trial, a final platform to broadcast his ideology. Others believe he was simply exhausted, a man on the run who knew the end was near. His surrender was as anticlimactic as his rule was dramatic. The man who built monumental palaces and golden statues was found in a dirty hole in the ground. The legacy of Operation Red Dawn is complicated. While it was a tactical success, it did not end the insurgency in Iraq. In some ways, the removal of the figurehead of the old regime galvanized various factions, leading to years of further conflict. The capture was a symbolic end to Saddam's rule, but it was far from the end of the war. So the real story of Saddam's capture isn't just about a hole in the ground. It's a story of meticulous intelligence work, of human fallibility, and the dogged persistence of soldiers on the ground. It's about how one of the world's most powerful fugitives was brought down not by a massive army, but by tracking one person, who led to another, who finally gave up the secret. It's a powerful reminder that in the grand theater of war, history often turns on the smallest of details and the actions of a single individual. The capture was a single chapter, but the book of Iraq's future was, and still is, being written. Thank you for watching. If you found this deep dive into history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines. Let us know in the comments what other historical events you'd like us to uncover. See you in the next video.